Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive. Today, we're doing something a little different. Instead of one single topic, we're zooming right in on just one day, August 7th, 2025. A pivotal day, it seems. Our mission, basically, is to sift through this big pile of sources we've gathered: global news, U.S. developments, politics, economy, science breakthroughs, environmental stuff, culture, the works. And we want to pull out the most important nuggets, the key insights for you. Hopefully you'll walk away feeling really well informed, maybe pick up a few surprising facts too.
And August 7th, it's interesting, it wasn't just another Tuesday or Wednesday. It was really packed with significant events. And many of them were interconnected, which is fascinating. Developments span the globe, really touching almost everything.
Right.
From, what you might pay for a new car,
Right.
to how AI could change your work, even hitting on those very real anxieties about geopolitical stability. It painted a picture of a world definitely in flux.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Starting with our first big theme, major shifts in global trade and finance. These really sent ripples worldwide on this day. We probably have to start with those widespread U.S. reciprocal tariffs.
Indeed. Those new tariffs, they officially kicked in that day, affecting goods from, I think, over 70 countries and the entire European Union.
70 countries, wow.
Yeah. And reciprocal tariffs, the idea is the U.S. imposing duties on countries it feels aren't playing fair with American imports. And the specifics stand out, like a 39% tariff on Switzerland.
39%.
And a cumulative 50% tariff on India's purchases of Russian oil. That's huge. President Trump invoked emergency powers for this. It was framed as fulfilling that longstanding promise to rebalance trade.
And the markets, how did they react immediately?
Well, stock futures actually rose moderately overall, which might sound okay.
What?
But underneath that, it was really varied, very sector-specific. Eli Lilly, for example, dropped 8%,
Ouch.
but then Duolingo jumped nearly 25%, and DoorDash rallied after good earnings.
So a real mixed bag, not uniform at all. Which kind of makes you ask, who really felt the pinch from these tariffs?
Exactly. That's the key question. The overall market might absorb it, but specific companies took a big hit, especially global automakers. Toyota, for instance, they started anticipating a massive $9.5 billion profit loss for the year because of this.
Wow, $9.5 billion.
And Honda revised down by $3 billion. GM looking at $4 to $5 billion. Ford, $3 billion.
Agree.
Stellantis facing about $1.7 billion in increased costs, mainly hitting vehicles imported from Japan, Mexico, Canada.
So for you listening, this probably means higher car prices down the line.
Almost certainly. Higher prices, maybe fewer models to choose from on the lot. Manufacturers will either pass on the cost or just import fewer of those less profitable vehicles. It hits the consumer directly. Pocketbook and choice.
And speaking of big companies reacting, Apple made quite a move, didn't they? They'd already pledged $500 billion in U.S. investments earlier in the year. But August 7th saw something else, almost like a counterplay.
It really did seem timed that way. Earlier in the day, CEO Tim Cook actually presented President Trump with this commemorative glass plaque mounted on a 24-karat gold base.
Huh, symbolic.
Very. And right alongside that, Cook announced another $100 billion commitment to U.S. manufacturing.
Another $100 billion.
Yeah, focused specifically on AI servers, plus hiring 20,000 employees. Now, this looks very much like a move to perhaps head off potential 100% tariffs on semiconductor chips that were being discussed.
Makes sense.
It's a great example of corporations strategically reshoring or friendshoring production now, weighing those short-term tariff costs against longer-term geopolitical risks and supply chain security.
So how did people react to Apple's announcement?
Pretty divided, as you'd expect. Pro-manufacturing groups loved it. Big win for U.S. jobs and investment, they said.
But the critics...
Critics questioned the motives. Was it just trying to curry political favor, soften those tariff threats? Bit of both, maybe.
Right, that push-pull again. Okay, let's jump across the pond. The UK economy. They'd been struggling, right? Stubborn inflation, weak growth.
Yeah, for a while. And on August 7th, the Bank of England made a pretty significant call. They decided to lower their base interest rate by 0.25 percentage points down to 4%.
Okay, trying to stimulate things.
Exactly. But it was a really close vote, a rare two-round split vote, 5-4 against. Tells you how divided they were on the risk.
What was the risk?
Reigniting inflation. Analysts immediately warned it could jump back up to 4% by September, especially with wage growth and energy prices still high. It was a bit of a gamble.
And the market's immediate take?
Not great. The FTSE 100 index dipped, dropped about 75 points, down to around 9,089, Underscores that tightrope they're walking.
Trying to boost growth without letting inflation get away again? Tricky.
Especially in this global environment with all the trade pressures we just talked about. External factors are huge.
Okay, one more piece on the economic front for this segment. Mexico. President Claudia Sheinbaum made a call on trade deals.
She did. She ruled out pursuing a separate bilateral trade agreement with Canada.
Oh, why is that?
Instead, she said Mexico would focus on strengthening ties within the existing U.S. Mexico-Canada agreement, the USMCA.
Ah, the updated NAFTA.
Right. This seems like a strategic move, given all the U.S. tariff noise. It looks like Mexico trying to show a kind of united front with Canada, sticking to the established regional bloc, rather than potentially fragmenting things with new deals, a signal against U.S. protectionism, perhaps.
Interesting. Okay, so that's the economic picture on August 7th. Let's shift gears now. High-stakes geopolitics. Several situations really heated up that day. We should start in the Middle East. Israel and Gaza City.
Yes, this was significant. Israel's Security Cabinet approved Prime Minister Netanyahu's plan for the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces,
Right.
to take full military control over Gaza City. This came after nearly 2 years of conflict and another recent collapse in ceasefire negotiations.
Was there consensus on this within Israel?
Apparently not entirely. Reports indicated the IDF Chief of Staff, Eyal Zamir, actually resisted the plan, so internal disagreement there. And the timeline mentioned was for military maneuvers to begin by October 7th, 2025.
Sure.
A very symbolic date, of course.
And the international reaction?
Swift. And very contentious. Germany, for one, immediately suspended arms exports to Israel.
Wow, okay.
And the UN warned about catastrophic consequences, big diplomatic fallout.
What about domestically, inside Israel?
Also deeply divided. Families of Israeli hostages held in Gaza strongly condemned the move. They were terrified for the safety of their loved ones. And as mentioned, some officials, some military leaders openly disagreed with escalating things this way. It really highlights the intense pressures, domestic and international. The human cost is just immense.
A very tense situation. Let's move to another, frankly, quite alarming development from August 7th, the U.S. Russia dynamic. Nuclear brinkmanship. Sounds like Cold War stuff.
It really did feel like a throwback. The context was President Trump's statement back in July, shortening a deadline for Russia to agree to Ukrainian ceasefire terms.
And Russia's response?
Defiance. President Putin, his spokesman Dmitry Peskov, they asserted Russia's sort of immunity to sanctions, pointing to support from their BRICS economic allies, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa.
Right. That bloc has been gaining influence.
It has. And in response to this defiance, President Trump ordered the deployment of 2 U.S. nuclear submarines to strategic regions. That obviously raised the temperature.
And then there was that chilling comment from Dmitry Medvedev.
Yes, the former Russian president. He invoked Russia's dead hand nuclear doctrine.
Can you just remind us what that is? It sounds terrifying.
It is. It's basically an automated nuclear response system.
Yeah.
Designed to launch retaliation even if Russia's leadership is wiped out or incapacitated. A truly last resort Cold War deterrence concept.
Yeah.
Bringing it up was a major signal of potential escalation.
Unbelievable. So nuclear saber rattling seems like an understatement.
Experts certainly use that term. Warning. It was pushing the symbolic doomsday clock much closer to midnight. And the timing, just incredibly poignant and tragic. This escalation was happening right around the 80th anniversary of the atomic bombing of Hiroshima, August 6th and 7th.
Oh my goodness.
You had survivors, the Hibakusha, making these desperate, renewed pleas for restraint, for disarmament, right as this was unfolding. Chilling.
Just awful timing. Beyond those huge flashpoints, there were other conflict zones active on August 7th too, right? Ukraine, for instance.
Yes, strategic assessments published that day detailed recent Russian advances in the war in Ukraine. More pressure points emerging. The conflict just grinding on.
And Japan, a defense development there.
A significant one. Japan received its first 3 F-35B stealth fighter jets. They arrived at Nudabaru Air Base in Miyazaki.
F-35Bs, those are the ones that can take off vertically.
Short takeoff and vertical landing, yes. Gives them much more flexibility, lets them operate from smaller ships or bases. And this is happening amid rising tensions with China, particularly over the East China Sea and Taiwan. It marks a real shift in Japan's defense posture.
How is that received locally?
Mixed reactions, some local protests about safety concerns, noise, that sort of thing. And Chinese state media, predictably, framed it as an escalation by Japan. Shows how sensitive military moves are in that region.
Okay, elsewhere. Pakistan.
A roadside bomb attack in the Wana region of South Waziristan, northwest Pakistan. It killed at least 2 police officers, wounded about 14 others.
Any claim of responsibility?
Not immediately, but suspicion quickly fell on the Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, the TTP. They're active militants in that area.
And Lebanon. There was some talk of a deal.
Yes, Lebanon's cabinet voted, in principle anyway, to accept a U.S.-mediated proposal
What was the proposal?
to disarm Hezbollah and, in return, secure an Israeli military withdrawal from southern Lebanon, aiming for the end of 2025. Looked like a potential breakthrough on the surface. But Hezbollah immediately rejected it, walked out of the cabinet meeting.
Ah.
Yeah, it just instantly exposed the deep divisions in Lebanese politics.
Yeah.
Showed how fragile things are there and how far they are from resolving that issue.
So lots of geopolitical tension. Okay, let's pivot now. How did August 7th impact communities, daily life, technology, culture, a major tech leap first? OpenAI and GPT-5.
Yes, a big announcement.
Yeah.
OpenAI unveiled GPT-5, their newest, most advanced large language model.
So the next generation after ChatGPT-4.
Exactly. Billed as smarter, faster, and more useful. They highlighted built-in expert reasoning capabilities and, importantly, better safety features. These large language models, or LLMs, they're the AI behind things like ChatGPT, understanding and generating text.
And what can GPT-5 supposedly do?
Demonstrations showed it automating quite sophisticated research tasks, improving accessibility in education, even enabling breakthroughs in robotics and telemedicine. And big players like SoftBank and Microsoft were already integrating it. That signals pretty rapid adoption is expected.
Cephalic reaction, awe and anxiety.
Pretty much sums it up. Excitement about the potential, definitely, but also real concerns about misinformation, potential bias in the AI, and of course the impact on jobs. That classic tech tension.
Right. And on a smaller tech scale, but relevant to daily life, Arkansas. Mobile IDs.
Yeah, a convenient thing. Arkansas announced its mobile ID system was now approved by the TSA for airport security screening at Clinton National Airport.
So using your phone instead of a physical ID.
Exactly. Easier travel, perhaps.
Yes.
But it immediately sparked debate among privacy advocates about data security. Where is that information stored? Who has access?
Always a trade-off, it seems. Okay, let's turn to the environment. August 7th saw some key decisions and, unfortunately, some major disasters. France first. A pesticide ban.
Yes. France's Constitutional Council made a final ruling. They banned the reintroduction of acetonprid.
Which is?
It's a type of neonicotinoid pesticide, known to be harmful to bees and other pollinators. So this ruling effectively upheld a ban that had been in place, with some exceptions, since 2018.
How was that received?
Pollinator advocates, environmental groups, organic farmers, they celebrated it. A win for biodiversity, they said. But some conventional farmers expressed frustration. They argued they needed effective tools to protect crops from pests. It highlights that ongoing tension between agriculture and environmental protection.
A difficult balance. Now, sadly, some environmental disasters hit hard on August 7th, North Carolina.
Yes, catastrophic flash flooding, especially around Raleigh-Durham, caused by Tropical Storm Chantal. It dumped over a foot of rain in some areas, just immense rainfall, and tragically, at least 6 people lost their lives.
Terrible.
It immediately reignited those urgent conversations about climate adaptation. Is our infrastructure ready for this kind of extreme weather? Clearly, in many places, it isn't.
And France also faced disaster. Wildfires.
A huge one. A record-breaking wildfire in southern France. It consumed over 13,000 hectares.
13,000. That's massive.
It is. At least one person died, and there were large-scale evacuations.
A stark reminder of how vulnerable Mediterranean Europe is becoming to these climate-driven megafires. And weren't there wildfires in Canada, too?
Yes, briefly mentioned, wildfires on the Avalon Peninsula in Newfoundland also triggered evacuation orders around the same time. It really felt like a global issue hitting simultaneously.
Definitely underscores the climate challenge. On a slightly more positive note, a public health update from Canada.
Yes, some good news. The Legionnaire's disease outbreak in London, Ontario, was officially declared over on August 7th. It had caused 70 cases and, sadly, 3 deaths, but public health measures brought it under control.
Okay, good to hear that was resolved. Now, let's look at some stories affecting communities, rights, security, starting in Alaska.
Yeah, Alaska News Nightly reported on what they described as a concerning rise in white supremacist activity in the state. This prompted alarms from civil rights groups, indigenous advocacy organizations, highlighting a disturbing trend of domestic extremism needing attention.
And the Fort Stewart shooting aftermath, that was back in July, but news on August 7th.
Yes, news coverage that day focused on the individuals who acted heroically to stop the shooter, Seacook Cornelius Radford. He had wounded 5 soldiers.
Right.
This brought renewed debate about security on military bases, but also about mental health support within the military. It emerged that Radford had previously filed racism complaints and also had a recent DUI arrest. pointing towards potentially deeper systemic issues needing to be addressed.
A complex situation, tragedies in Kenya as well, transport accidents.
Two separate tragic incidents on the same day. A light aircraft crashed in Nairobi, killed 4 people on board and 2 people on the ground.
Oh no.
And also a collision between a train and a bus in Naivasha that resulted in 8 deaths.
Just awful. What was the reaction?
Huge public outcry, as you'd expect, demanding better safety oversight, stricter regulations, investment in infrastructure, really highlighting the vital need for transport safety.
Shifting to India and Kashmir. A book ban.
Yes, authorities in Indian-administered Kashmir banned 25 books, including works by the Booker Prize-winning author Arundhati Roy.
On what grounds?
The official reason was that the books promoted false narratives and secessionism. Possession or sale now carries severe penalties. And this, of course, sparked outcry from free speech advocates. They framed it as part of a broader pattern of growing restrictions on the press and expression in the region.
A worrying development for free speech, and the U.S. State Department made a move affecting Zimbabwe.
They did. A sudden suspension of all routine visa applications for Zimbabwean citizens.
All routine visas. Why?
It was described as part of broader restrictions affecting several African nations, though the specific reasoning wasn't fully detailed in the reports we saw. It drew immediate criticism from civil society groups and the Zimbabwean government itself. They called it discriminatory, highlighted the impact on families, students, businesses, sparked debate about U.S. relations with African nations.
And an inspiring story from Liberia, women protesting.
Yes, a powerful grassroots movement. Thousands of Liberian women marched in the streets of Monrovia.
What were they demanding?
Emergency government action to tackle the country's absolutely devastating drug epidemic. Fueled particularly by a synthetic drug called kuakish, they delivered petitions to the national parliament. Their demands included setting up a special court just for drug cases and much stiffer penalties for traffickers and even users. It's a real testament to grassroots power, demanding accountability on a critical social issue.
Absolutely. Okay, let's wrap up with a few snapshots from sports and culture that made news on August 7th. Baseball first.
Couple of big items. The Boston Red Sox signed their top prospect, Roman Anthony, to a huge extension. 8 years, $130 million. Big investment there.
And a historic moment in umpire.
A landmark moment, yeah. Jen Pell became the first woman ever to umpire a regular season Major League Baseball game. Earned praise from all across the league. A great step for gender equity in sports.
Fantastic. Any other baseball news?
The Arizona Diamondbacks had a tough loss, blew a lead, but their player Corbin Carroll hit an absolute monster home run, 443 feet, so a highlight even in defeat.
Always look for the silver lining. Now, a sadder note from the entertainment world.
Yes, unfortunately. Kelly Clarkson's ex-husband, Brandon Blackstock, passed away on August 7th. He'd been battling melanoma for 3 years.
Oh, that's sad.
He prompted a lot of conversation online about melanoma awareness, the importance of skin checks, early detection. So raising awareness even through sad news.
Right. And finally, a bit of cultural chaos in the UK. A festival.
Yes, the Boardmasters Music and Surf Festival down in Cornwall. Huge event, over 50,000 attendees expected. Reports on August 7th were already predicting major travel chaos. Severe congestion expected on the roads, on the railways. Just shows how these big cultural events impact local infrastructure, daily life for residents.
Right, the practical side of festivals.
Mm-hmm.
So there you have it, August 7th, 2025, an absolutely incredible range of stories. We went from high-stakes global trade wars and nuclear tensions, all the way down to critical local issues, community action, scientific leaps, environmental crises, and, very personal human stories.
The sheer breadth is something. What strikes me most is the interconnectedness. How a tariff decision impacts car prices, how climate change manifests in floods and fires globally, how tech advances raise both hopes and fears.
Absolutely. It really underscores how linked everything is.
Which raises that important question, doesn't it? How do we even begin to process this constant, dense flow of information coming at us every day? I think the value, as we've tried to show today, is really in trying to connect those dots, seeing the patterns, understanding the underlying implications, not just treating each event in isolation, recognizing how these pieces fit into that larger, dynamic, global puzzle that helps you make sense of it all, hopefully.
Well said. So, a final thought for you, our listener. What stands out to you most from this deep dive into August 7th? Was there one story, one connection that surprised you? How do these interconnected events make you think differently about the world around you? Or maybe what specific detail will you find yourself sharing or thinking about later today? Lots to consider. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive.